Welcome to Wednesday Comics.
Brought to you by rootsoftheswampthing.com and SuperCon 2018 Return of the Con.
Hey everyone, keep turning those pages.
Welcome to Wednesday Comics. To my right, nobody today. Alex Pastrell, how you doing? He is off for Mother's Day. Across from me, we have the Green Hornet himself. Garrett, how you doing?
I'm feeling green. I'm feeling good.
He's feeling green, and I am the Cato to his Green Hornet tonight. My name is Marvin. This is Wednesday Comics Podcast. We're telling you the comics that came out on the 8th of May. We're going to review 6 of them. But first, before we get there, a couple of things Marvel related. I was going to come to this tonight and be like, I want to talk to you about the Spider-Man trailer. I want to talk to you about who's going to be the new overall villain in MCU. But I feel like we talked about MCU for like the last 3 weeks. So we'll save that for when Alex is back. But a couple of things today, comic book wise, that I saw that is getting some traction. And I wanted to mention it first. There is an 80-page giant that they're putting out, Marvel 1000 it's called. 1 page for each creator. It's a writer and artist on 1 page. It's an Al Ewing idea, he said, that he brought to Marvel. And they got all these creators coming to do a page. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, even some people who don't do comics. Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas, I saw that. I don't know why. I guess he must be a comic fan or something. I don't know where you reach out and you'd be like, hey, we got to get somebody from the Black Eyed Peas, but... But then, like, also you have your legends coming back for 1 page. We have Jonathan Hickman coming back with Dustin Weaver doing a page. And plus, all the people who are currently writing comics for Marvel, obviously, are going to come and do a page. So that's to celebrate the 80th anniversary of Marvel from 1939, they said. I didn't read the article enough to know where Marvel 1000 comes from. Because I don't think there was ever a Marvel Comics leading up to 1000, but it's for the 80th anniversary. I think it'd be, depending on price, we're talking more.
Right.
I think it might be $20, but
yeah, probably.
I say if it's like $8, I think that's a good to go through it and see each different page and see how each person takes it. And it's going to be actually it's supposed to tell the Marvel history from 1939 to today, and each page is supposed to be a year. That's why it's 80 pages.
Oh, damn.
And I believe they're going to write and draw to that year's style and like make references on that page. It's supposed to be like one overall story. So we'll see how that works. I'm not sure. Al Ewing said he got the idea because he did a Deadpool Choose Your Own Adventure book. And then he knew that this was coming up, so he pitched it to Marvel, and now they're doing it. So.
That is nuts, because at first I thought I was like, geez, with all these creative teams, maybe they're rebooting the line, but that makes more sense. I don't feel like Marvel would ever do like a company-wide reboot, but...
the last one was fairly short. It wasn't really like a reboot, but it more was like a creative change after they were doing like those, go back to renumbering, and then they got a new, what's it called? Editor-in-chief, and then they were like, no, we're going to go back to number ones. So that was like, a year and a half ago? So
yeah, something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me, though. If they did decide to start over, I wouldn't be surprised. Another thing, for the first time, I think, ever, Immortal Hulk now outsells Batman.
Whoa.
April 2019 Diamond Comic Distributor stats are out, and they make a rather interesting reading. Immortal Hulk number 16 had higher orders than Batman 68 and 69 since the New 52 reboot relaunch. The twice monthly Batman comic book has been the old reliable at DC Comics, constantly topping the charts, only beaten by the occasional first issue launch or mini event like Secret Empire Metal or the Batman Who Laughs. For a regular issue of an ongoing series to top Batman is unheard of until now, Immortal Hulk. Eisner nominated for this year Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, and Paul Mounds has received praise across the industry since its launch, reinventing the comic as a horror title while incorporating the inconsistent and widely varied history of the character over the decades by rewriting the mythology for itself as well as the current state of the Marvel Universe, while moving it on into a gripping, surprising, and drop-dead gorgeous book. The series has been putting it on sales as past issues continue to sell out and go to further printings. The first and second issues are on their fifth printing of this series. So normally, I mean, for a while, that was the thing. And I think we even talked about once when we talked about comic book sales. I said you got to take Batman as like the base because Batman is pretty consistent and pretty consistently number one, unless something big drops off and people buy it for spectators. You know, spectators go, "Oh, I got to buy this book." Usually, new number one or a mini event or like something crazy happens. But for just a regular issue to be Batman, this is the first time since the New 52 launch, which was what, 2012?
Yeah. No, it was 11. It was
11? So we're talking 8 years. And Immortal Hulk.
Wow.
So I wanted to bring to you, because we're still reading Immortal Hulk, out of all the titles, why do you think that Immortal Hulk is the one that finally enough people are buying that it be Batman?
You know, it is a consistent book. It is, you know, I guess I would say for myself that I'm kind of thinking like Batman is good, but like the story Tom King is telling right now, I would say that it's a very long-winded story that's going to pay off in the end. But Hulk, you're getting a complete story every single issue. They're like a series of one-shots with an overarching story. I mean, you get those Alex Ross covers. You get, it is true horror. Like they make the Hulk like this monster that's something to be feared. They went back to the origins of the character. They're using a lot of the Hulk's history. I just think there's a lot, not necessarily quantity, but I mean, there's quality in how much they're putting into this book, because it feels like, you know, Al Ewing is like, he knows a lot about the character, and you can feel that in each issue when there's a little bit of history. There's characters from Rick Jones to Betty to, well, not Ross anymore because he passed, but I mean, I can see how this book has been climbing up. It is really a great horror book about one of the best characters of Marvel.
So, Immortal Hulk number 16, that's the one that finally beat out Batman. Batman 69 and 68 are close behind. The exact numbers aren't out, the exact numbers. I would be curious, because I was actually going to ask you, that was my follow-up question, like, why do you think Batman got beat, and why? The first question was why Immortal Hulk, and you did answer that for me. But why Batman? I want to see when the actual numbers come out, because right now they just showed the top 10, and we're like, here's the books that sold the most, but they're not exact numbers. That comes out a little later. I want to see, usually Batman, I want to say, is very consistent. I have to look back and see. I want to say 300,000, but that sounds crazy to me right now. But I think around 300,000. So I just want to see if Batman dipped, and that's how Hulk got above it, or did Hulk just surpass it, and Batman stayed consistent. Now, in either case, Hulk had to increase their readership at some time to get that high and pass them. And I do think it is what you're saying. It's a quality book. It's a reliable book. I think that going back and, as the article said, going back to be a horror title, but also examining like different parts of his origin and kind of mixing that up. And it's beautiful. Joe Bennett's art's fantastic. I think all of that leads to a book you haven't seen on either side, DC or Marvel, for a while, like a horror book like that, because they're all usually like action books. You might see a mystery book, you might see a supernatural book, but not like a horror book like this is.
Right. Its strength is that it's a horror. I mean, I could only think of like Venom besides this, but you know, Al Ewing really does make this a horror book. It's like a Frankenstein, heavy Frankenstein, and it's a lot of fun and a lot more scientific than you would think a Hulk book would be. You think it's just about Hulk smashing things, but there's a lot of depth to it.
Al Ewing has been great for a while. He did, prior to this, Ultimates over at Marvel, and I like that. The Black Panther team. Before that, what was he doing before that? I was reading that too. I forget. But I hope that, I mean, he's doing good on Hulk, so I hope he stays on here, but I hope he might get some more work. He's doing like smaller titles and Hulk, but I hope maybe, because we know Jason Aaron's coming to an end. Like, he could go to Thor and do Thor and Hulk. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he has a Hulk story to tell. I'm not sure how much more of it he has to tell, but if it's going to end soon, we know Jason Aaron's leaving Thor soon. I wouldn't mind seeing him jump on that title. I think he's earned it at this point, especially since now their next big, I would say, event in quotations, the 80-year anniversary issue, was something that he pitched. And then you get a book that is literally something that's never happened in the last 8 years that beat Batman. So, I mean, obviously it shows that people were interested in his book. And as you were saying, is consistently good. And that's because of him. So, well, and also as artist. But Al Ewing has been doing great stuff for a while. So that's why I was like, I know he's a very consistent long-term writer, but also he knows how to reward you each issue. So,
right. That's really huge.
Al Ewing, congratulations. There you go. Beating out the Batman. As you said, the top 10. It's got 2 Batman issues and got Heroes in Crisis also on there. So Tom King not doing bad. Like I said, I'm curious to see the numbers, to see what was it. Was it just, did it clear out, just zoom past Batman? Or did Batman trip up and then that's how it got ahead? We'll see. But either way, congratulations, Al Ewing.
Right.
It's a good book anyways, so it deserves it. So, into some reviews. This is from this past Wednesday, the 8th of May. We read 6 books here. The first one I took a gander at is, let me look at the issue number. Deadly Class, what issue is it? I got
number 38.
38, that is Rick Remender and Wes Craig. In this issue, we have Maria, and we have what's the main character's name?
Marcus.
Marcus, that's right. They both come back to school. They come back to the academy. They strut in like they don't give a shit. Like they don't care that they're there to kill them. They go right to Master Lin, and they're like, "Hey, we're here to fuck shit up. Like we're here to be back in school." And I do like that he was like, he's like, you did miss some time, but since you're still alive, we'll apply that to credits and you'll be valedictorians now. And I was like, okay, I guess.
Dude, I was shocked. Like I was expecting like Endgame Deadly Class. He was going to go in there and fuck everything up. But I actually like this storytelling. Like I was super shocked, and like the fact that they get to stay at the school now. Like, obviously, I think they're still going to plan the demise of the entire school. But I think it's fun that, like, they're sort of gaining trust and, like, prestige in the school. But I know they're still going to have a plan to, like, murder everybody.
See, I don't know if Master Lin is lying a lot. Obviously, that's a part of the assassin way. You got to lie. But I did like that too. When he walked into their office, he respected that they faked their death and that he killed a couple key people who were hard to kill. It put Maria in charge of the gang. I forgot what's the gang's gang. Do you not remember?
No.
Chico's old gang. So now she's in charge of it. But I do like it. Does show that at least there's some sort of code of conduct there that. If you can survive, then you're accepted and they'll let you in and, have a fair fight. I think before they called them rats because they thought they could save people. They thought, like, oh, what are they doing? Like, they shouldn't be able to do this. We need to save people. What do you mean kill people? And now, after they come back, now they're in that world and that's how they act. And I think there might be a little respect thing there from Lin to let them at least play it out and see what happens.
Well, and he grants them the title of Legacy after they come back, too.
I do like, he's back. I would say they both have a little bit more confidence. They even, that one girl tries to tell Maria that Marcus slept with her before they left because she thought that Maria was dead. And she was like, I don't think so. And she scratched her in the face. And then big old Tubbs, what's his name?
Shabnam.
He was like, that's it. You signed your death warrant. And Marcus flicked that cigarette at him. And that scene in particular was like, it just proves to you right there that they just don't, like, they're so sure of themselves now as an assassins or as be able to stand up for themselves that they don't care anymore. Like,
yeah, that was pretty cool. Like, they were just like, all right, we'll see you around, man. Like, hope you get what you want. And, like, that they have this, I just know they have this cool plan that they're going to fuck everyone over.
I think he was like, "You're dead because of this," and Marcus said, "Well, I like to see you try," and then he flicked that cigarette at him, something like that. But
right.
It's this new, it's this new kind of confidence that they have. Maria has a gang now, and they're going to protect them. I thought this issue, especially art wise, there's some good art panels. There was one art gripe that I had, and I'll let you know that in a second here. But overall, I thought that this issue, and in the last issue also, because I went back and looked at that briefly just to make sure I read it, and I did because we talked about it in the show. But I think the last two issues are kind of return to form. I think we just kind of have to forget about Mexico, like that whole thing. It was. Yeah. I think it was. Once they got back, I think it's good. Like ever since they got back, it's fine.
Well, besides the recap issue, that was pretty.
But they were still in the desert at that part. They're doing peyote, so
that's true.
So once they got back into civilization, we're good. But everything south of the border, not that it was bad, but it wasn't the book we were reading, and I think that's what took us out of it. Now we're back to like the dynamics that we're interested in and the story they set up, and finally we can get conclusion to that.
Right, and like I think this issue does like give new life to this book. It's exciting that this book is called Deadly Class. But like, if you think about it, we were in the school for 18 issues, which is like a year and a half. Obviously, some breaks, probably 2-ish years, and then it started getting really hot and heavy. Well, it's awesome that they're kind of going back to the school part of the story, where they're still going to like learn how to be an assassin, even though they probably have their major plot behind the scenes. But at least for the next couple issues, I'm excited they're back taking classes and doing fun things with the school.
Yeah, and I do like that Lynn gave them both a room, but he's still playing mind games. He put Maria with this one guy who's like an Italian sleazeball, and he put Marcus back in his old room where he used to have his roommate. What's his roommate's name? Geez, I'm horrible with names. Willie? Was Willie his roommate?
Yeah, Willie was his roommate.
Okay, so Willie in his old room with some Australian surfer dude. And Mark is like, hey, I don't make friends anymore. And the guy's like, all right, fucking dick. But he's still going to make friends with people. It's very possible that these people are double agents or whatever. He's not going to, like, he's already know he has Maria, him, those one girls. Like, you can tell it's a Master Linen thing. All the girls are, like, flirting with him and trying to get with him. And he's just, throwing it to the side, being like, I got Maria, I got me, we got a gang protecting us, and that's all I need. So.
Yeah. That is kind of cool, like, because, like, obviously when he was a rat and before all this happened, like, yeah, people didn't give him the time of day, thought he was crap, and it is cool to see that he's, like, so popular now.
I mean, also, part of it is that not only is he is popular now, but I think a part of it is that he is, and I keep saying confident, but he is very confident now to know that he doesn't need them in a way. Before he was trying to get their attention and trying to be popular, but now he doesn't want any of that. He just wants what he loves, and that's Maria, and anything else is just, he doesn't care about it anymore, which I think was good. I mean, at this point, I think this was a nice 8. It was very solid. There's one part with the art, I forget the specific part, and it's on my phone, and we're recording this right now, so I can't look at it, but there's a specific part where the dialogue kind of ends in the bottom bottom right. And then the next panel, there's a top right panel with dialogue. And then but the panel you're supposed to start with is on the left-hand side, a little lower than that. And that confused me a little bit because I was like, you shouldn't have a panel above where you're supposed to start. Like the first one on the top is the one you start with. Like that's obviously, I don't know.
Right.
And usually Wes is fantastic about keeping your eye going. I mean, that's been a thing in the past that we praised him about, is make sure you know where your eye's going, even if the art's all over the place, because Wes kind of drags your eye around the place. So I thought that was a little trip up. It wasn't enough to like make me dislike all the art, because like I said before, there was some great art, especially in the backgrounds. There's a little white outlines of a story he was telling. I did enjoy that. So I thought this was nice. A nice little return to form a little bit. And I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually going to give it a 9 just because I was expecting like it seemed very predictable to me going into this issue. Like, oh, Marcus and Maria are going to go fight everyone at the academy, and then there's just going to be another 5-issue event where there's a lot of action happening. But I was really surprised by this issue with the story, and gets me excited to read. I mean, it doesn't seem. I don't know when this book's ending, but it seems like they definitely have a lot more content instead of like I thought they only had a couple, maybe like 10 issues left. So,
indeed. Garrett, what else did we get?
So next we got Black Hammer number 10, written by Jeff Lemire with art by Dean Ormström.
Let me say something about this book from the very beginning, and you actually said about Deadly Class right at the end there. This was a book where I started reading it, and I thought, okay, here we go with the story. They don't remember anything. We're going to get a story where she tries to convince people to remember, and that I thought that was going to be like an arc of her trying to get them back together. But actually, it happens within the issue, which I thought was fantastic. We get past that part. I don't need to see them try to remember over the course of like 6 issues. Get it done in 1. Like, I understand that they don't have memories. Like, we've been establishing that for a while. She just has... she hits Abraham with the hammer to wake him up.
Right.
Throws it at his face. They go to Gail. She's a very old lady at that point. And he goes to Black Hammer. He says to her, he's like, why don't you like, what are you gonna do? What are we gonna do? And she's like, I'm not gonna hit her with a hammer. Which first I thought, I mean, is she human at that? Like, if she's in the old stage, is she not super powerful anymore? Because Abraham is just a human, right? He doesn't have powers,
right?
So,
yeah,
I mean,
at that point, he's human.
If he could take the hammer, then that old lady could take a hammer in the wheelchair.
Well, I was like, hey, every time that Black Hammer uses the hammer, there's a little thunder in the background. Like, why don't you just give her a little electric shock?
Oh, that might kill her. That might be a pacemaker issue. But so they just steal her. They go, hey, well, I guess we'll just take her until we figure it out. And then here comes Colonel Strange. Is that his name?
Colonel Weird.
Weird, sorry. Shows up out of nowhere. And then they go to meet Barbalian on Mars. I did at first was going to be like, I was going to pull an Alex and be like, how are they breathing on Mars? But they explained it within the second panel that he's creating an atmosphere right outside the ship. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But still, because I was wondering, I was like, why is Weird wearing a helmet and nobody else is? And then they explained, and I was like, oh, okay. But once again, Barbalian doesn't remember anything. And but this time, Barbalian, unlike the rest of them, is very aggressive because people come to your planet, you know who the hell they are. They just show up and say, "Hey, you're gonna come with us. Maybe you're gonna punch some people in the face." And he gets a sweet hammer right to the face, doing one of those Thor kind of swing arounds and toss right in his face. Then he remembers.
Yeah, and then he's like, Abraham, like nothing ever happened. I was like, all right, pretty sure you'd have a headache right now, but
here's the part that got me. Here's the part that, like, for me, just like you with Deadly Class, this is the part for me where I was like, I know where this is going, and then I don't know anymore. Was that once she woke everybody up, she disappears. And she wakes up in front of her father, the original Black Hammer, and he says, welcome, like he's been waiting for her. And now I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah,
it's very intriguing.
I feel the same way.
Like that's been Black Hammer since day one. I think we even mentioned in the show is that it brings you down a path that feels familiar. Like, okay, we're like it's superheroes. We're on a farm, and then it's like, wait, the farm's not real. And then like it brings you down these paths, which it kind of like makes you feel safe and familiar. And then it's like, actually, that no, this is gonna happen now. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? So I should.
Well, if you think about it, it
Go
could
ahead.
be like, you know how Dr. Manhattan kind of materializes. Maybe when Black Hammer went past that force field, like, yes, you see his body like evaporate, but maybe that wasn't him actually dying. Obviously,
he's in some
maybe
other
it was
dimension.
him.
I mean,
Right.
So, but also going back a little bit, Talkie-Walkie and Black Hammer talked about prior that the reason why nobody remembers anything is that when they left that dimension and went to the farm, that everybody they made a new timeline where they never existed. Okay, they kind of messed up with time and whatever. And so
well, then
now,
plus the farm was fake, right? Wasn't that only in their heads?
it was, but
Maybe
yeah,
that's why he's still alive.
well, possibly, yeah. And then they when like got pushed back into Earth or whatever that is. I think I'm pretty sure it's Earth. And now they in a timeline where they don't exist. Their memories wiped because they don't exist in that universe, and that's why they were just like regular people. So in this universe, they think, at least at first, Abraham's like, so this timeline doesn't have heroes and villains. Maybe that's a good thing then. And then they're like, no, look outside. And they look outside and they think that a storm's coming, but it's actually the anti-god. He's coming back. So they got to get everybody back to fight the anti-god again because he's not actually dead.
That is actually exciting as crap because, like, you know, with Dr. Frankenstein mini and with, like, obviously the plot of Black Hammer, that when they fought Anti-God, they, like, evacuated to the farm was how the story was originally done, but, you know, obviously they evacuated to space.
Yeah, it was like a flash, and then they woke up in the farm. But that's not actually
right.
But, yeah.
Right, and so that's just kind of, like, terrifying, and all they show is, like, a red cloud, and I was like, that gave me, like, oh, fuck.
You know what, like, I thought?
I can't believe that.
When I first saw that, I was like, okay, now I have an idea, like the roadmap for this book. I know how it ends. Obviously, that's the end point. They're going to fight Anti-God, and then everything's going to be back to normal. But then I thought in my head, once again, I keep thinking, I know how this is going to go, and then it doesn't go that way. Because I remember in the first series of Black Hammer, when they're on the farm, we all thought that it ends with them getting off the farm. And that was obviously not the case. And then we have all these miniseries adding all these kind of elements to this world. I don't think it ends after they beat the anti-god. I think something's going to happen again, once again, where it takes a quick left turn and we realize something, maybe that Black Hammer was never a good guy. He is the anti-god or something like that, and he brainwashed them. He brainwashed them, and I don't know. But like the whole thing is great. It's fantastic. But this is like the book that, like I said, it makes you feel comfortable. And then Jeff Lemire comes from the side and kicks you in the damn head. And now I'm like, okay, I guess I can't. This is not a book where you got to think long term, think theories, which I think we've been trying to do since the beginning. But
oh yeah,
but then you look like a dummy over here, being like, okay, this is what's going to happen in the 3 issues in the future. Like, oh well, actually, the farm's fake. You're like, what the fuck? Like that. Like I don't think any of us saw that coming.
No, I feel like we're in a constant madhouse, like thinking that we actually know what the plot is. Then it's like, no, you don't.
I really like this issue. This was a strong 9 for me. Dean's art was great as always, but I think Jeff Lemire, once again, a good character moments in this issue, especially with Gale and Abraham, but also plot-wise, once again, like I was saying, sharp left turn, and here we go down the road again. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but
I would give it a 9 also. A lot of great character development. That Zaphram line from Golden Gale was amazing. Like a great scene. I legit thought that she was, like, I got that, you know, she was most likely kind of like dead and comatose.
Yeah.
But that kind of confirmed, obviously, that she was still kind of alive. Like, when she was drooling, I was like, dude, I don't know if she's going to be able to say it. And then she does right away, and I was like, oh, perfect. But, yeah, that was definitely a fun issue.
Here we go. Invaders, number 5. That's Chip Zdarsky, and we got Carlos Mango and Butch Geist on art here. Butch Geist doing the past parts, and Carlos doing the current art, or the current present time. So in this issue, at the beginning, we get a little backstory about we're finally seeing like the beginnings of Namor being a little crazy, the Mad King, as they say. He's questioning Steve Rogers, and the group's like, no, I think Steve has a solid plan. They're doing a plan where they're going to go not kill, but they say beat up some Nazis. And he sees his former partner as like a figment of his mind. You kind of egging him on to betray the group a little bit. Or like
I still think it's fucked up that Professor X put Tommy in his head. Like, hey man, this guy will help you. He's just a ghost of your dead best friend.
Well, yeah, I think he was trying to help him, obviously. Do some kind of psychology, like if you had somebody that you lost with you, wouldn't you get over it? He just didn't realize that Namor was mad at the world for taking away Tommy. So putting Tommy back in his head was going to make Tommy basically make him homicidal. So,
Right.
but what I don't understand is like why. Like I guess Xavier's not fully back being regular Xavier, because in the present time you think they just go to him and be like, "Hey, can you take this guy out of his head? Like, what did you do to this guy?" But in the present time now we have where they realized who the double agent was. It was that lady's son. What was his name?
Roman
And Namor. So Cap's like, hey, you got to get out there. You got to warn them as soon as possible. I can't get out there as fast. And they're like, why don't you call the Admiral? And she's like, he's not going to believe me because she already doesn't believe him. So he flies out there, gets his ass kicked by Namor. There was that panel later on when Cap shows up. You see Human Torch's head on the ground. I was like, oh, that guy's... I mean, he's not dead, obviously. Jim's going to come back. But,
right.
Saw the head back on. He's good, but...
Dude, that page reveal, like, my jaw just dropped. Like, I know he's an android, but still, I was even like, holy shit, that's, like, dark.
You know what I liked about this issue? First off, a lot of action in this issue, which I don't actually need from this book, but in this book, I think it's the perfect point for it, 5 issues in, because we've had, in the past, we've had a little action, but not in the present story, and now we've reached an apex, where in the past... We got to a good character moment, when he sees Tommy and you see that Mad King first forming. And then in the present time, we get the action, the result of all those years of Tommy in his head. And he's put this together and you kind of see Tommy like egging him on to destroy humans for what they did to them. And I'm going to say, once again, this whole week might be a week of left turns. That last page when you realize like, Namor didn't aim them at Atlantis. Like he's like, oh no, they're not in Atlantis. The defense system, it's hitting the shores there. It looks like little East Coast.
Yeah, that's pretty screwed up. Like Namor has been so like deranged in the head about humans that he legit blew some up.
Yeah, I was looking at that for a while, wondering like, so now they're kind of framing it that, well, Cap thought, Namor's going to do this thing he usually does. He's going to have the U.S. attack because Roman was the commander of that ship. First off, when Roman actually he killed the Admiral and all the shipmates, that threw me for a loop. I didn't expect that to happen.
Dude, yeah, it was like machine gun massacre.
Killed all of them. And she's like, please don't disarm the bombs. He goes, well, that's not the plan. The plan is to shoot off the missiles. And she shoots them off. And Cap's like, okay, he's going to shoot them at Atlantis. So that way they get the first strike, but then Atlantis is going to retaliate. And that's how he's going to justify this war. And it looks like that Namor's just going to fucking go right at it. Be first attacking. He doesn't really care about, faking it. He just wants to get back to the humans.
Yeah, that was so fucked up. Like, I haven't seen, like, Namor has always been on the fence, but like that legit is full tip over. Unless they pull a Zack Snyder and say that town was empty. Like
that's what I was gonna say. Is like that last page was very shocking. Very like I need to read the next issue, but I hope we don't get the next issue when the first 2 pages be like, oh, actually nobody was there.
Yeah.
Okay. Or he hit like a good thing he shot it at an abandoned piece of land. Imagine what's gonna happen when he hits the city and be like, nah, come on. Like, something's got to happen.
Right. It might as well, they're going to call it Nuketown and be like, you know what? That was cool, too, when right before, obviously, we get Namor with, what's his face's head? I always forget his name, for the Human Torch.
Jim?
Jim. That was cool where he was about to take off and literally... you don't know where Namor is, and he shows up and literally blocks him from like flying off towards the bombs. And that I thought was pretty sweet. Like Namor knows his friends so well that he's like, hey, I know what's going on right now, but I have to get to the Human Torch because I know he could actually stop this.
Yeah, and then he takes that trident, chops off his head.
Yeah, that. I know he's an android, but I'm sure he still feels pain. That probably hurt a lot. Oh, yeah. We have to mention the Avengers show up, and they're questioning Cap a little bit. And I'm like, hey, the guy knows this guy better than you guys do. Like, let him, he knows what's happening. But obviously he doesn't, I guess, because he thought Namor was going to fake it, but he didn't fake it. So, you know what? I'm looking at this last page right now, and
There better be. It looks like a town. So, and there's ships on the sea, like not at dock, that are actually going. So, you better get something doing there.
Yikes.
This actually probably was my pick this week. I mean, once again, I've been enjoying this book since issue 1. This is the story. Like, I like this kind of invaders, World War II stuff. So for me, this was my 10th of the week. I thought it was great.
I would probably give it a 9, but what I was very impressed with is, like, I was reading this book and it felt like I had just started it and then it ended. Like, there was a lot that happened, but it was more of an action book. But, like, the adrenaline was so high that by the time I got to the end, I was like, holy crap, I want to keep reading. Like, I don't want to stop. And then I had to stop. So, definitely a great book, and I'm glad I'm getting it. Like, I don't think that team's ever going to work together again anytime soon. So
we'll see.
Yeah, could happen. Maybe that's Hydra Namor. Who knows?
Oh, you mean that team? I thought you meant creative team. Yeah. I don't think.
Oh no, not the creative team. I just meant like the actual invaders.
I guess we'll see with Namor. We'll see. But what else did we get, Garrett?
Well, I think I'm reviewing this one by myself because I don't think you get it or you haven't read it. Shazam number 5 by Jeff Johns and Dale Eaglesham.
I do get it. I'm just behind. I think I'm on.
Yours fine.
Yeah. I'm on 3.
So this issue we're still at Funland. Things have escalated a little bit where they run into, I'll backtrack a little bit to kind of catch you up, but there's this ruler of Funland called King Kid, and basically the premise of Funland is that only kids under 18 can be there. So no one over 18 is allowed. So last issue, King Kid could tell something was off about Mary. Well, Mary had just had her birthday, and so she's 18. And once he found out about that, he got his little clown munchkins to kidnap her, because the rule is you can enjoy Funland, but once you turn 18, you are now part of the operation, meaning you're in the warehouse pumping coal and working on the fuel supply and everything that runs and generates power for Funland. So when you get to this issue, it's Billy trying to save Mary. And what also happens is last issue is the Munchkins teleported each member of the Shazam family into different lands, the magical realms. So a couple of them go to the game lands. A couple of them go to the wild lands. I think that's it. And then obviously the fun lands still. What is really cool is that by the end of this issue, each member has Shazammed out. And they were worried about Shazamming because they didn't want King Kid to know the magic word, but he has to have permission from Billy to use that power, and Billy's obviously not going to give it to him. Mary gets held prisoner for a while, and then about halfway through the book, Billy frees her, she says Shazam, and she smacks the shit out of King Kid. One of the ways that from Gameland, the two brothers, I can't think of their names, the way they're trying to get back is they have to beat this Grandmaster in a video game to be able to travel to any magical land. And then we have Freddy and the youngest Shazam one passed out in the wildlands. And there is, it's kind of like Astro City with the animal planets or Kamandi. Where these two are held prisoner because they're humans. Animals are afraid of humans, like we would be of horrible animals. So that's where they are, and they are trying to work with someone to get free from the wildlands. So a lot's going on. I think that's one of the strong suits of Jeff Johns is he can write these totally bizarre stories with a lot going on. And yet it wasn't very confusing. I mean, maybe what I described was confusing, but I mean, literally there's 4 different storylines that all are connected going on. And then at the cliffhanger of the last issue and this issue is Black Adam has come and realized that there's a disruption in magic, and it's that Billy, he kills this lizard and finds out with the blood sacrifice where Billy is, and Black Adam basically like flies into the page and is like, I know that you can't be an adult to go to Funland, but there's no way they're stopping me. So he's on his.
Did you read their first Shazam, the origins in the back of Justice League?
Yep, sure did.
So I've been seeing since the movie came out. That's the one they're kind of pushing the trade for that, and not really. And I guess I assume probably because it trades out, and not these issues, this new series, really. Especially like when the one with Zachary Levi on the cover is that old one. Do you think was the old one as good as this, or do you think they're not really the same type of book? Or
I think the old one was more focused on Shazam. I think this one is more, I would say definitely more family friendly. Like, it's probably the most family friendly book I've read by Jeff Johns. I mean, if you go from like his Doomsday Clock to this, you'd be like, whoa, this went from like rated R to G real quick. It does, I don't know, for me, I really enjoy Shazam kind of being his own hero and sharing the power with all his siblings. It's kind of like, hey, we have 6 Shazam members that are saving the day, and it's like, I kind of want to learn more about, like, stick with Billy and him being Shazam / Captain Marvel, but the family dynamic is all right. But I just kind of hate how every superhero book has to turn into, we need 12 heroes on a team working together. I'm like, why can't Shazam just be Shazam? But I don't think it's bad because of that. I just think it's different.
All right. I'll catch up with that series because it's been fantastic so far. What did you give it?
I would give it probably an 8. This issue is good. I think the arc's going to wrap up here pretty quick. Maybe 2-3 issues.
There you go. Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, Shazam. Movie did well in the theaters, so if you watch that movie and you have some curiosity about the Captain Marvel Shazam, there you go.
I haven't seen that movie yet, but I'm waiting for it to come to our cheap seats because I saw they have February movies in there right now, so April will be coming soon.
It's pretty, I liked it a lot. I think I put it number 1. If you want to catch me on Backlot 605, we ranked the DC movies. I put it above all the rest of them. So
nice.
There we go. Captain America, number 10. This is Ta-Nehisi Coates, Adam Kubert, Frank Martin on colors. Actually, before I get there, I was going to mention that. So I'm seeing a movie tomorrow. Did you know our theater here, the West Side one, now has all reserved seats, not just XD?
It has what?
All the seats you can reserve. You know, you can pick your seats beforehand.
Oh, every single theater you can do that now?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I did watching Detective Pikachu tomorrow, obviously, as you do on a Saturday morning. And
I'm going to see it Sunday.
Oh.
Wow, because my mom doesn't get back till later, so that day.
So I'm going to go see it. When it's go buy tickets, it asked me, because it's just a regular showing, not XD or 3D. It asked me what seat I want to sit in. And I looked at all the rest of the showings for all the movies, and they all said reserve seat. So I go, oh, okay, cool. But only on that side, not our other theater. So you saying theater remind me of that. So, but Shazam is good. I would go see it, whether or not it is in the regular theater still or in the cheap seats. So, or second run theater. How much does that second run you now? 3.5?
Yep, 3.5.
All right, well, it's not bad. Captain America, number 10. In this issue, at the very beginning, so in a couple issues ago, at the end, we saw that this group of female superheroes was getting together to break Captain out of the Liberty Sentinels or something like that. Break Captain out of jail.
Right.
So we see at the beginning of this one, we see Mrs. Fantastic, obviously, the Invisible Woman. Sticks. Did she
seem like Invisible Woman? Like, I know it was Invisible Woman, but she seemed like she was talking weird to me.
Yeah, I actually thought until I just actually re-looked at it. I thought that maybe somebody had morphed into her, but then I just reread the beginning a second ago, or not reread it, but I looked through it quick to remind myself what happened. And she makes like a sports joke, and I was like, is she really into sports? Oh, she talks about Bill Parcells. And I'm not saying that just because she's a woman she doesn't understand sports, but I've never heard her talk about sports before. So I was like, especially.
Well, she was talking like Reed talks too, and I'm like, I think this is a story of opposites attract. Like, you're not some nerdy. I don't know.
Well, even Reed wouldn't talk about Bill Parcells. Like, this is I would like it would be like The Thing, or maybe I don't think Johnny's really interested in that. But I mean, he might be. But like, it's not even like a football reference. That's like a football coach and someone who doesn't even coach anymore. So like, to make that reference, you have to know football, follow football, and be a fan for a while. So I'm not saying that she couldn't be. I'm just saying I've never heard her talk about football in a comic before. So that kind of threw me, yes. And I didn't think that she was somebody else. Now, it's very possible that is still true. Like, it could be one of those. I have to go back and see who was on that team originally. Does any of them morph or can turn to other people? Anyways, she meets up with Dr. Franklin. She shuts off his powers, stabs him with something. He goes powerless. So that way he kind of freaks out and goes to the ward. And Captain America is talking about his time in the Clink. And Von Strucker gets it so that him and Cap are in the cage. And he wants to take him one-on-one. Cap is talking about how Van Strucker is younger. He's more agile. And they go one-on-one. They go a little fist fight. And guess what? Cap's getting his ass whooped. Steve Rogers. We cut back to Mr. Franklin, Dr. Franklin. And the power number went off and it stopped working. And then he realizes, flashes back to a visible woman telling him we need heroes. And villains decide, he turns to the other guy at the table and he says, hey, you want to try something here? And they decide that they're going to break out Cap, or at least cause some ruckus so Cap can get out of there. And that's how it ends. You know what I wanted to say about this issue? First off, the art was fantastic. Adam Kubert, yes. I think the first couple issues Adam did, I didn't enjoy fully. It might have also been because we were coming off of Francis Leinil Yu. Is that his name? Leinil Francis Yu?
Leinil Francis Yu,
yeah, that's right. But I think now I kind of I'm liking it a lot more. There were some good panels in there, especially those couple when him and Von Strucker are in the cage, little widescreen format.
Right.
And so I think this issue, because we had talked about prior, you had mentioned on the forecast whether or not you think this story is going at a good pace or not. I thought at least for this one, at least now we have something like happening. He's getting out of jail. So.
Yeah, this brought me back in quite a bit because I was like, okay, we need to move to some part of the story. And I kind of like that they didn't try to include the, Alexander Lukin stuff in there. I think, obviously, they're trying to set up a big bad for this book, or Ta-Nehisi Coates is, but I think right now that shouldn't be the focus at all. It should just be about Cap, and I think that's why this issue was so strong, is it's Cap's struggle to see that he's being blamed for something he didn't do.
Yep.
And like in the eyes of America, they're trying to see him as that supreme leader. Like even that scene at the end though with the riot that you were bringing up, like you see that Sharon's watching the security camera footage live and watching Captain America and a bunch of villains beat the shit out of like the prison guards and whatnot. She's just in shock, like, who is this? What's happening? And it's all taken out of context because Steve is just trying to prove that he didn't do anything wrong, that he still has America's best interests at heart. But it's hard when there's all these factors that are going against him just from the wrong perspective.
Yeah, this issue, like you're saying, like him being blamed for all this, seeing that other Cap, and seeing the news, and kind of seeing how he talked about for a while, like all this, fake news, and like they're kind of like blaming him for this thing that he didn't do because they need a scapegoat. I thought that this was a great issue to show that, and he kind of talks about this because the first couple of issues, remember he talked about, is it worth it, the American dream anymore? Because are the people worth fighting for? Like they obviously they gave up on the American dream the first chance that they got. When it got too hard, they went the easy way out and decided that they were going to follow that Hydra cap. And he thought that they were stronger than that, and he's kind of debating whether or not the American dream is worth it anymore. And I think these issues are fantastic, especially this one here, because like you were saying, he's seeing this America blame him for all these things, so it could be for him to take the easy way out to say, fuck it, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, if they don't want me around, like, obviously they gave up easily, so, like, I could give up easily too. But the thing about Captain America, and the reason why he's one of my favorite characters, and I think it's very well told this to you, not very subtly too, it's not very apparent, is that Ta-Nehisi Coates has Captain America not give up. He still believes in the American dream. He still believes that he can help the people see the right way and get the country back on track. And he's not going to give up on the American dream. He's not going to give up on his fellow Americans. And he's not going to give up on his allies and friends. He'll fight through the jail and get out and prove what's right and what's wrong in order to do that. So I thought this issue, like I said before, like that's who Cap is. You get knocked down, he could do this all day. He'll get back up. And I think this issue was probably the perfect encapsulation of that attitude. So,
right. Yeah, I'd give it I'm going to go with a 9. I was really impressed by this issue. It definitely gets me excited for issues coming forward. Like I said, I think trying to but involving the Red Skull, Alexander Lukin, whatever resistance organization into this right now, and I know they're a part of it. They hired Von Strucker to do the prison and whatever, but I think when this book is from the perspective of Cap, it works a lot better instead of shifting perspective all over the place.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9 too. The only part I didn't like was, like we talked about, the very beginning just felt off.
Right.
And I don't like to hear about Bill Parcells, so I'm just kidding. I don't care. But otherwise, art was great. Adam Kubert, I think this was probably his best issue. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, like I talked about, I like Cap's story in here, like you were just saying also. I think it was very strong. And I'm looking forward to what we see the next issue. Obviously, now we're in a riot, baby. So let's see where it goes.
All right. Well, last book of the night, we got Detective Comics number 1003. Did you read this one, Marv?
I did. 10-3. You know what? They didn't tease this Arkham Knight for that long. 3 issues in. Here we figured out who it is. And not even he. I keep saying he.
Right.
Lady.
It's, what is it? Astrid.
Astrid Arkham. So Arkham, the original Arkham of who put together, not the original, I guess her father works at Arkham Asylum. And this issue we show that she's breaking out some of the supervillains, and turns out she's the daughter of Papa Arkham, and she doesn't think Batman's doing a good job, and she thinks she lets them go to. I guess I don't know. I guess that part I was a little confused about why she let them go.
Oh, I think she wanted to show Batman. It was kind of like a mind game. Like, I'm not in this to hurt your Robins or anything like that. I'm here to show you that I can do this better than you.
Yeah, but she started letting Phosphorus Man out, and then at the end, I think she take a bunch of people out of their cages. No, that's Captain America. I'm thinking about only Phosphorus.
Yeah, because Phosphorus Man, what he does is he brands all the followers of the whatever her cult is. But I think we're definitely going to need more information because this cult worships they worship sunlight and bringing things to light. So that's kind of obviously the opposite of what Batman's about. He likes to do his work in the shadows. But what I don't get, and this is going to have to be explained obviously in further issues, is her pure hatred for Batman. I'm sure we're going to get that in the flashback story, but I think the pacing is a little off, giving us the reveal so early when we don't know the motivations behind it. So that kind of made me step back and be like, is this a really compelling villain, or is it even a villain, or is she a villain?
I guess we'll see, but actually I kind of like that a little bit because now him and Damon trying to figure it out, so we get a little detective thing going on.
That is cool.
And Bruce was like, she looks familiar. Like Bruce is trying to figure it out. So obviously he must know. I mean, he does a lot. He deals a lot with Arkham, so he knows. So like you said, we'll figure out how he knows her and why she hates him. I'm not sure why. Maybe it has something to do with her father. I don't know. But it seems like she also didn't give a shit about her father. I don't know. I wonder, like, where's her mother at? Like, did her mother get killed, like, in a prison riot or something like that? And that she hates Batman for bringing those people there? I don't know. We'll see. But
yeah, could be that.
I did like that her henchmen seemed like they were former bad guys that had fought Batman and Robin, and she found them all and like put them on her team because they all kind of knew Robin and they all wanted to like beat him up. They're like, look at this little shit. Like, this is the guy that I hate. And one guy tried to hurt him, and she, took him down. And she's like, no, I said, put down your arms, and he's trying to kill him. I thought, so like they already have some sort of rage towards those two. So I thought, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Like they used to be henchmen. They probably got locked up, and she, found people who hate Batman already because they dealt with Batman before, and now they're on her team. So,
right.
I want to say I'm going to give a compliment to Brad Walker. I'm also going to give a little.
Oh, wait, I didn't even say the creative team: Peter Tomasi and Brad Walker.
Oh yeah.
Oops.
That's
bad.
No, that's not your fault because I said 10 out of 3. I think I cut in. Brad Walker, I really like the way he draws Damian, his face, facial structure, and the way he looks. He kind of looks different than other Robins. So I do like that. But I didn't like the texture of his costume. It's very confusing to me because there's one point in which Robin grabs something, and I thought it was Killer Croc's hand. I stared at it for a while, being like, "Why is it like there's like nails on it?" And it was like scaly, and I was like, "Whoa, Killer Croc!" And I went to the next panel, he wasn't there, and I'm like, "What am I looking at?" And I went back and looked at it for a while, and I was like, "Oh, that's Robin's hand." Like, so it kind of took me out of it for a second. I don't know why like Robin would have nails on his glove, but I don't know. But
I'm sure it's like talons kind of thing.
No, probably. But otherwise, I liked Brad Walker's arts. The story, we'll see. I do see what you're saying. It is kind of, we'll find out, I guess, with the rest of his arc if it feels rushed or this is a nice place for this. But it is very unexpected that this comes so early. So the rest better pay off from it. Otherwise, all you're going to do is get a story that felt like it got to the end.
Right. Because, you've already built up from, it's kind of like Bendis in Action Comics 1000. When you build something up in Detective Comics 1000, that's this huge thing. And then if it comes out like a, fart in the wind, then it's definitely going to leave some fans alienated and not wanting to get that book. So I like the direction so far. Do we need more answers? Absolutely we do. And I feel like that we should get them. I feel like Peter Tomasi would definitely deliver on that. So I'm hopeful for it. But if this is like literally part 3 of 4 or something like that, I'm going to be pretty upset.
When was Brad Walker off the book?
Well, I got a little inside tip from potentially Doug Minke. I asked him at a comic book signing if he would get a chance to draw Arkham Knight, and he says he knows that for sure Brad Walker's on 1001 through 1005. So that potentially 1006 could be a new artist.
So you think the arc goes past that, or that's the full arc to 105? Or
I bet, what I kind of noticed, except for the books that are not really structured like this, but a big book like this one, I feel like the arc belongs to the artist and the writer, so I feel like they change artists for arcs.
So if we go off of that information, we have 2 more issues of this arc. And I think that would feel a little rushed to me, unless she stays around for the next arc too.
Right, which I feel like that's kind of the big crux coming out of 1000. Maybe it will last a little bit longer.
Yeah, so hopefully she sticks around for a second, we get more answers. But also, so far I'm interested in this kind of dynamic that they have, trying to fight each other and why. So I really wouldn't like it if it rushed through it. I'd like to see them expand on that more and get away from just being her be like, oh, Batman's not doing a good job. Because we've seen that before.
Yeah. I do love the light bombs, though. That is pretty cool at night when she lights those off and it looks like daytime. That's pretty sweet.
So we'll see. I'm curious on the why she hates Batman, like you said earlier, and I'm curious on what because they always say, I'll be better than Batman, but how? Like, what are you going to do? And are you
Right.
going to attempt it, or are you going to just be like a psycho and think you're doing better than Batman, but you actually want to control Gotham? So we'll see.
Right.
But a nice solid 8 for me.
I would do 8 as well. I think it was a good issue, but again, lots of questions that I am assuming are going to get answered.
I feel like Detect for me, and I've said it day in and day out since I started with 1000. It's a nice change of pace for Batman, especially if you're reading Tom King's book, because Tom King is very a more internal Bruce Wayne kind of book, and then this one you got some sweet action, baby. And I do like that when him and Damian's like, he's like trying to locate him, and Damian's like, hey, he's like, when did you come back to the Batcave? And he's like, I don't know, I was checking to make sure she didn't put a tracker on me, and I don't want to lead her back to the Batcave. Like at that whole scene when Damian's telling him all that stuff, you could tell Bruce was like, oh, I trained this guy good, and he's like, okay, we'll go find her now. But I do like that interaction, because I was like, okay, so like this is the Batman book where you have all this kind of stuff, and this is the kind of Batman with the gadgets, the Batman who's like doing detective work, the Batman who's being Batman. Meanwhile, over in Batman, we're Batman Bruce Wayne trying to be Batman again. So I do like reading both of them. I mean, a little mix of Batman, no matter which one you're looking for. So,
right.
Good books this week. Detective Comics. Yeah. That's 10-3. Invaders number 5. Captain America number 10. Black Hammer. Age of Doom. Number what?
10.
10. Another 10. There we go. Deadly Class number 38. And Shazam number 5. Make sure to get those comic books wherever you get your comic books. I'm at your keeper once again. Online anytime or at your local comic book store. Let me know if anybody else, your local comic book stores, they started selling those Walmart exclusives recently. You pick them up? Are they good? I'm interested in that Swamp Thing one, the Halloween specials. We'll see though.
Hey, they did release a teaser of what Abby Arcane looks like. And from what I could see in the teaser trailer, she doesn't have white hair yet, but it's more of like a whispery gray.
Oh, for the show?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I did see that link. I didn't watch it yet, but we'll take a gander. Speaking of it, rootsoftheswampthing.com. That's your definitive source for all things Swamp Thing. Make sure you go over there and read up on the Avatar of the Green. Not that I think that Swamp Thing show is going to be confusing, but, keep up on some Swamp Thing. Wednesday Comics it's Wednesday Comics 605@gmail.com. Send us an email at Wednesday Comics on Twitter, at Garrett2188, at Marvin_Saguaro. Or, you want to talk to Alex? He wasn't on the show and you miss him? At Alex Mastralla. There you go. By the way, I just noticed I'm going into the ending and didn't explain. We are doing a feature. Me and Garrett talked about it, and we just did some reviews quick. We're going to wait for Alex to come back, and we'll go into a feature there for you. Facebook.com/Wednesday Comics Podcast. Make sure you like the page and share the page with your friends. YouTube.com and search Wednesday Comics. A lot of videos up there. And 605-215-1849. That is the voicemail where you can leave a voicemail. I don't answer it. My Google secretary answers it, and she will ask you to leave a message. And you can leave a message about a certain book club, right, Garrett?
Wednesday Comics League of Extraordinary Gentlepeople proudly presents Marvels, written by Kurt Busiek with art by Alex Ross.
Marvels, it is also coming up on an anniversary. So not only you got the 80th anniversary of Marvel, you got the anniversary of this book, which is a nice tie-in because it tells the history of early Marvel. So go ahead and pick that up. We will be reviewing that here in about a month and a half. So make sure you read that. It's on, I believe, Hoopla and Comixology Unlimited. It's definitely going to be on Marvel Unlimited.
It's on Hoopla. I don't think it's on Comixology.
Oh, okay, there you go. Hoopla and Marvel Unlimited, or once again, buy it online, Comixology.com, or your local comic book shop. There's a new edition coming out soon, so I'm assuming those little paperbacks might be going on sale there. So pick one of those up. So, you know what? It's a good book, a good week of books, Garrett. A lot of left turns here. Even that Batman, we didn't talk about that. Arkham thing was a left turn in Captain when we found out that he only had a power dampening on and he came back to life. That was a left turn, too. A lot of left turns this issue, or this episode.
I would completely agree. A lot of surprises.
This is one of those weeks, and we talk about it. It's week to week. But this is one of the weeks where I think I was on Invaders. And I think that's why I made my pick. But we were on Invaders, and Oh, I was on Invaders. And I was like, you know what? I, once again, like reading comics. Like, that was the book that was like, okay, I know why we keep reading comics, so.
Right. Yeah, a lot of good picks this week. And it's nice when you read Invaders and you got Cap this week, too. So it's a lot of Cap this week.
A lot of good stuff. Me and Garrett will see you next week here with the AP18. For Wednesday Comics, I've been Marvin.
I'm Garrett.
Hey, everybody. Keep turning those pages.